Real Estate Unfiltered.
Welcome back, everybody, to Real Estate Unfiltered. Super excited to be here. Believe it or not, we made it one more episode. We are on to episode 2. Can you guys believe it?
Lord help us.
Who knows what happens from here? But anyway, I want to welcome you all back. And if you could do us a huge favor, by liking, sharing, and subscribing to this podcast, we would certainly appreciate it. It certainly helps us out. And hopefully the content that we're bringing to you is helpful as well. So our goal, as always, is to give you kind of the down and dirty, the inside baseball of real estate, pull the curtain back, and use some common language that everyone understands. So with that being said, I'm joined today by Jay Kestel and Zach Coffey, the regulars. So what do you...
We got a new fancy name?
We've got a... Yeah.
Okay.
We've got nicknames. We've got the whole deal going now. So a lot's happened since we recorded the last podcast. Zach, hats off to you with what you've done with producing this thing. It's top notch. Can't thank you enough.
I don't know about all that, but I'll take the praise any day.
The time and effort that you've put into it is awesome, and we certainly appreciate it. And I think the people that listen to it and they eventually watch it will certainly see some of the hard work that you've put into it. I've been working away, since the last podcast. One member sitting at the table is been on vacation. So anything exciting to report from vacation over there, Jay?
No, vacation was good. Gained a few pounds on vacation, which is okay, but it was good. Yeah.
Good. And what was the purpose of this vacation?
Is a trip with my lovely wife for our anniversary.
Very good. How many years of your life sentence?
20 amazing years.
Very good. So Tracy, if you're listening, it's good to have you guys back. And again, we're excited to bring you another episode. This week, we're not going to have a guest. But we've got some pretty exciting things lined up in the future. We've got some estate planning folks coming in to talk with us to talk about estate planning, the importance, especially when it comes to real estate. We've got home inspectors scheduled to come in and talk. We've got some local businesses that we would like to promote. If you have the opportunity to buy local, we certainly ask that you do that. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and kind of jump into, I know last time we got together, we were talking about a little bit of the market shift and kind of what we saw coming down the pipe. And since that last podcast, the Fed did raise the rates one more time. So we were talking about a 75 basis point hike back when we recorded the last one. In August, they had another hike, or was it? I'm sorry, it was July. It was July's rate hike. And so here we are. And if you believe everything you see on the news, the whole whole world's crashing, right? So
World War III and the apocalypse. Here we go.
It's all happening. It's all like a bad Will Smith movie all at once, right? So anyway, so we're here to kind of talk through that a little bit. And I think it's important in some of the stuff that we talk about is that we're around this on a daily basis, is to kind of bring to you guys what we're seeing on a daily basis. And I think what we had talked about and we had spoke of previously, we talked about rates going up, demand going down, and eventually inventory would start to build. And that's exactly what's happening. The ironic thing is that the week or even the day that the Fed announced the 75 basis point hike in interest rates, mortgage rates actually went down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how that all works. And, as Mike was saying last week, not to get too much into the weeds, but that is, they almost want that, like Zach said, bake it in, right? Mm-hmm. They want to anticipate what that rate hike's going to be. And they thought that it was going to be a full point, and it turned out to be 75, right? Or 3/4 of a point.
Yeah.
And so they were able to lower interest rates. Mm-hmm. So I would argue, and Jay, you might have some input on this, that now may be as good a time as ever to buy a house. And here's why, and I'll let you kind of add on to it as well, Jay. But back a few months ago, if you had a house listed, it was almost guaranteed that you got multiple offers and they were all over asking. Fair to say?
Absolutely. Yep, for sure.
So in that scenario, you get that whole frenzy built up where everyone goes in expecting to go over asking. They go in expecting to give everything up, including their firstborn, right? And so that, and we talked about it previously, is that's kind of the market that we created. I would argue now that inventory is starting to rise. I checked right before we came on air, and we're just under 2,100 listings in our MLS. Previously, we had run as low as below 800. So now we have more houses to choose from. Demand has settled or even dropped considerably based on news, quote unquote. However, with inventory building, rates going up, they haven't gone up enough really to make a huge difference on the purchase of a house, right? So we're talking maybe a few $100s in payment here or there, maybe, right? And that's between you and your lender. However, we aren't getting the number of multiple offer situations that we got previously. So that frenzy has stopped.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think when you look at what's happened in the past couple of months, how we've kind of settled down, slowed down a little bit, people are still buying homes. They're not going to get any cheaper. If you listen to other people like your Dave Ramsey's and such, he'll tell you, whether you're a fan of his or not, houses aren't getting any cheaper. And historically, if you look at where rates are at, it's still fairly cheap money. It's
Absolutely.
just not free, almost free money like they were getting a few months ago, right?
Right.
So,
What might quote like 1.75 on a 15-year note, which is typically, is realistically close to free in mortgages as you could absolutely.
But next year at this time, houses aren't going to be any cheaper,
right?
So I think we're just kind of in that cooling off period. Well, we're going to return to more of what we see as normal.
And I think we've established a new normal. To add on to what you just said, I think we've established a new normal. But here, I think where it's advantageous to buy a house now, rates are, let's use the word tolerable, and that's probably not even the right word, but they ain't bad, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't have the competition forcing me to do some insane things as a buyer that I did in the past, right?
Right.
So
free tacos for a year.
So we can talk about the craziest offer. So I did get an offer one time. I got 6 offers. One was $50,000 over asking. They offered to pay all the seller-related closing costs, pay for movers, and buy a gift certificate to their favorite restaurant. Funny thing is, we held them to the gift certificate to the favorite restaurant. A couple of days before closing, the agent reached out and said, "Hey, did they really want that gift certificate?" And I said, "Well, it sounds like they do." They said Cracker Barrel worked, so he showed up at closing.
Hey, at
with
least they didn't,
Welch,
like Ruth Chris or
well, yeah,
Oh
yeah, they could have. Yeah, they could have. I think they set a limit. I think it was a $75 gift certificate.
Okay.
Anyway, so back to what we were talking about. Now, I'm not going crazy over asking price. So if you look at the math, in a lot of cases, you're buying the house for cheaper, your rate is higher, right? But you're not overpaying, or technically you're not overpaying for the house, right? The market sets the price, and now we're not in these big bidding wars. It might come down between you and one other. So my argument is we're cutting some off the top because we're not overpaying for the house. And I'd like to get your input or your guys' thoughts on that as well. That's kind of my theory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting on the listings I haven't had that many buyers this year in a strange turn of events. I usually have way more buyers than listings. But at least in my experience, like even if it's a gem of a house, like I think the most I've ever gotten after the big frenzy has been 2. And they weren't ridiculous offers at all.
Right.
And I think the one we ended up accepting was just straight at asking, not even over. because of the terms. But sellers are definitely expecting that still.
They have been trained. They have been trained to expect that. So here's what I've been doing, and Jay, you may be doing something similar. I had a lot of buyers towards the beginning of the year, January, February, March, that said, Craig, this is kind of crazy, and we're just going to go sit on the sidelines. And as an advisor to them, and somebody that's kind of looking out for their best interest, I thought it was a good idea because really they had nothing to gain by substantially overpaying for a property that, if we were patient and smart about it, that we could get cheaper down the road, a similar property cheaper down the road.
Right.
I think, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're potentially at that point where demand and supply are starting to shift in a pretty significant way.
I agree. I think that's where we're at. I think that's where we're going to stay for a little bit. I think this gives people an opportunity to think about that purchase, think about that house a little bit. Before we'd have people in, they look at a house for 15 minutes and they're like, let's write an offer because they were so worried that someone's already going to sneak in and get this house. So, as an agent or as an advisor or whatever you want to say, to have that little bit of time to kind of sleep on it or think about it.
Right.
Instead of just making that, $500,000 or $250,000 commitment in 30 minutes. That's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. So
that's a whole lot.
We've got some stuff to think about, and I think the timing is good. It's getting better for buyers now.
Well, I know statistically, and we're not going to beat you guys over the head with percentages this, percentages that. But what I will tell you in common language is days on market has increased. And the number of reductions from initial sales price has increased. So what that tells me is that there are more houses on the market that are staying on the market longer, and they are not getting sufficient buyers or the right buyer through the property, hence a price reduction, right? So the market now is resetting pricing. And it's just like any market. It's like the stock market. It's like the futures market. It's like any market. It's all dictated by supply and demand. These rate hikes, I think we talked about it before, flushed out some marginal buyers. And not, like I said before, not that these people don't deserve the American dream, but they were people, and I think Jay said it in the last podcast, they were people that were looking at a $120,000 house, and then all of a sudden they could afford a $220,000 house.
Yeah.
And so I think we shot up. We're going to take a little drop down, but I agree with Jay, and I couldn't agree more. I don't think things are going to get dirt cheap. There aren't going to be a lot of fireside sales.
Yeah.
We got to talk to Jay about putting his phone on vibrate.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still in vacation mode. No,
he's on vacation mode. So anything in and around the market you guys want to talk about? I know we're at back to school time. It's always traditionally slow back to school time. But like I said, I'm reaching out to some of my buyers that opted to sit on the bench through the frenzy, and we're actually getting started back up looking at houses. And I think now is a great time to buy a house. I think now is probably the best time in probably the past 2 years for a buyer to be in the market to buy a house.
Yep.
Yeah, the sellers definitely aren't in control like they were.
As much, right. Yeah. I think it's still slanted a little bit towards the seller. But I think you're able to see in the deals that I've been working, we've had a little bit more leverage on the buyer side.
Right.
And so if you're a buyer's agent, that's a great thing. If you're a seller's agent, I think it's all about setting realistic expectations with your clients, whether they be buyers or sellers.
Yep.
So anything current market that you guys think we need to discuss?
I do think it's very dependent, like upon the property you're selling, though, as to how crazy your offers get.
So you're saying price point, like a price range, like up to a 225, 3-bedroom, 1 to 2 bath is probably still going to be a pretty highly desirable property in a desirable area.
Yeah.
And so you still might see some competition in those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, we all know those houses out there that are, in that first time buyer price range that have all new systems and a new roof and
right.
all the upgrades done that are still at 20 showings a a day.
Yeah.
And then, but you have stuff like I just sold where the systems aren't new and the roof isn't new, and it kind of sits there for a little bit, and then you get 2 offers, I think what we had.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's also dependent on price point. I think houses, and again, we could beat you over the head with statistics and put them up here on the screen or talk about them. And that's not what we're here to do. But I think houses in a range of, $350 and up traditionally have a longer sales cycle anyway. And now I think it's fair to say that it's going to be extended even a little bit more, especially when you get up to $500,000. Yeah. I think when you're at 500,000, I think your buyer pool is limited to begin with. And then with the rate increase, I think you eliminate a part of that buyer pool. And now with some uncertainty, you limit that pool even more. But I think the uncertainty is almost unwarranted. And that's kind of, I guess, where the market is. I think it's a healthy market. I think, in fact, this retraction, that's what we'll call it, this retraction is probably the best thing that could happen to the market.
Yeah, we're just resetting back to where we probably should have been the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, man, I think that takes care of all that business we kind of want to discuss. We don't want to put everybody to sleep in the first 15 minutes of the podcast. So
we are trying to get to a 3rd episode.
Yeah, yes. We're working for that 3rd episode. Yeah,
we ain't been canceled yet.
So that's where we need everybody that's listening now. When you get to a position where you can stop and subscribe to our podcast, Real Estate Unfiltered, we certainly appreciate you doing that. But I want to kind of change gears a little bit, and I think it's fun to tell some of the stories that we encounter when we're involved in this business, because it's a very unconventional business, I guess, or unconventional job. It's a different way to make a living, right? And so what I want to ask you guys is, what is the craziest way that you picked up a client?
All right, so the craziest way I think I've ever picked up a client, which probably isn't even that crazy, but last fantasy football season, for whatever reason, I was getting destroyed every week. So I'm not very good at fantasy football, just so everybody knows. But
now, tell me a little bit about this league. Do you guys do like the draft day party where you go to a bar or you go to somebody's house?
Sometimes we don't.
Okay.
I've been in this league for I think 10 years now.
And what is the prize for this league?
I think everybody pays in $25, so the winner gets the
cash.
Gets the cash.
So you don't get like the big Lombardi trophy.
No, but last place gets a toilet seat.
Gets a toilet seat.
Yeah.
So you've got how many?
Me?
Toilet seats.
I've never got a toilet seat. I've come in second to last 3 times.
So losers don't have to get tattoos or anything like that?
Thank God, no.
Okay. All right. So continue with your story.
But anyway, so I renamed my team Realtor Revenge or something goofy like that. And then immediately one of the guys in the league texted me and was like, "You're a real estate agent?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think you follow my business page, man." What? But then he was like, "Well, awesome. I'm going to list my house in 2 weeks. I'd love to work with you." And I was like, a disgruntled fantasy football player turned into a lead.
There you go. That's pretty awesome. I'll tell you about mine. So I actually had a crazy day, run around showing houses, and was headed back to the office. Got off the Gene Snyder, driving down Billtown Road, and came up on Michael Edward. As I was driving past Michael Edward, I happened to look over, and there was an elderly man that looked like Santa Claus. Had khaki pants on, suspenders, and he was driving an old Ford Explorer, and he had a flat tire. And I just whizzed on past that. Didn't even give it 2 thoughts, right? Yep. And so I got about maybe a quarter of a mile down the road, and it hit me. It was like, what would your dad think if you didn't turn your sorry ass around and go help that old guy change his tire? And so, Dad, if you're listening, even though you didn't give me a referral in your court, at least you taught me to stop and help people on the side of the road, I guess. So anyway, I turned tail, turned around, came back. You know where that old gas station is right there? Is that Michael Edward there? Maybe I got the streets mixed up. Anyway, I turned around at the old gas station and headed back. He was broken down by Charlie Ventnor Park, the road that goes into Charlie Ventnor. So I turned around and went back and pulled up, and nicest guy in the world. His name's Bob, right? And so Bob was trying to change his tire, and I think Bob's probably 73, 74 years old at the time. And he's got this dog in the back of his Explorer named Hershey. And Hershey is enormous. And Hershey is Bob's companion. Bob's wife had died, and he was a widower, and so Hershey is Bob's companion, and so got to meet Hershey. Hershey doesn't like strangers a whole lot, so I had to try to change his tire with Hershey like growling and snapping at me the whole time, right? So Bob's trying to help, and so we get the tire off, and we put the new tire on, and I get him, changed and ready to go on his way, and he offered to pay me money, and of course I wasn't going to take any money from him. And so he said, well, I need some contact information from you if I could get it. And honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it. The only thing I had on me was a business card. So I gave Bob my business card. Fast forward 2 years later, my phone rings, some strange number, and I answer it, and lo and behold, it's Bob. And Bob says, hey, Craig, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm that old feeble guy that you helped change the tire on the side of the road in J-Town. And he said, my living arrangements have changed, and I'm going to need a place to live. Can you help me? I said, Bob, that'd be awesome. Yes. So I sent him over to Mike Matija. Mike got him pre-approved. The interesting thing about Bob is Bob didn't own a computer, didn't own a cell phone. So everything we did with Bob was the old-fashioned way.
Yep.
Thank goodness he lived not far from the office, and we could drive over and do our thing. But to make a long story short is that Bob ended up buying a condo, and he and Hershey to this day live in that condo. And there you go. So you never know who you run into. So that's probably the crazy. That's probably the craziest one that I have.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, that beats mine, I think.
Yeah.
Yours is pretty good. I don't know. I'll take either one of them. So, Jay, you got one?
So I was thinking neither one as good as your all's for sure, but I did have a lady. You get these calls sometimes on your cell phone. It says from these out-of-state numbers, right? And you're like, this is going to be a scam or something.
Right. Your car warranty is now expired.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is before Facebook and all this stuff was kind of, it might have been around, but it wasn't big, right? Social media wasn't big like it is now. So I get this call from somewhere out in California. I can't remember. And speak to this lady. She's an older lady. She says, are you John with XYZ Real Estate Company? I said, yes. She said, well, I'm so-and-so, and I'm from somewhere out in California. I can't remember. And she says, I need somebody to find me a house in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm like, of all the real estate agents in Louisville, Kentucky, how did you find me? She said, I just happened to type in real estate agent Louisville, Kentucky, and your name was one of the ones that popped up, and I liked your last name, so I called you. I said, okay, awesome.
Wow.
That's pretty
because
crazy.
there are a lot of agents
good.
that will probably be well above me in the search criteria, right?
That's pretty crazy. Well, and now that's a whole business in and of itself. The search engine optimization.
Oh my God.
So she calls. We talked for a little bit, and she was like your client, Craig. Not she's up in age a little bit, wasn't into the computers, all this sort of thing.
Right.
And she says, I need you to find me a house in Louisville somewhere. I said, whereabouts? She said, I don't know anything about Louisville. I need you to help me. And she says, the kicker is I'm going to buy it and move down. I'm not going to be able to come see it. So I said, so you want me to pick the house out that you're going to live in, and you don't know me? Or no? She said, yes.
No pressure.
And I said, okay. I said, well, do you have any family nearby? And she says, yes, I have a second cousin or something. I think she lived like just outside Shelbyville, Simpsonville, something like that. So I said, great. Can I get her information? Because I like to contact her and have her come along on this, right? So met up with her. We showed her some houses. I don't even think there was FaceTime. I don't know how maybe we just talked her through what the house was, right? We looked for several, and then we found the one that she says, I think this is the one. She's never even seen this house, and we went through the whole process. She was a cash buyer and all that, so it was all good. And she closed on this piece of property, and she could not be there, so she had her cousin or second cousin
POA
sign for her. Never one time met this lady before we sold the house. We sold the house, closed on it, and she moved in. And I found out when she was moving. I went in there after the fact and talked to her, and yeah, she did great. She said, you found me the perfect house.
Oh my God.
So
That's great.
I don't know if she was
That's an awesome story.
serious about that or not, but yeah, that was one of those calls. I just happened to pick up a California number.
That's a great, and that's why in this business you answer regardless, even if it is your car warranty is about to expire. You never know who's on the other end of that phone.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. This is a good one, and the only reason I bring this one up is because it just happened to me just actually right after we shot the last podcast. So think about it. I'll tell my story. What is the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you or you've done in front of a client?
God.
So you guys think about it real quick, and I'm going to tell you, I've got two, but the one that just happened is probably one of those moments where I was like, you are a complete idiot, right? So my wife has been saying this for years and years and years, and now I kind of believe, what she's been saying. So busy day, showing houses all over the place, and I get a call or get a text from a past client, and I've sold 4 houses, either sold or they've been buyers on 4 houses. In fact, Zach, it's the couple that you couldn't figure out how to get into the house because of the lockbox.
Great.
Lockbox?
So for those of you that want to hear that story, you got to listen to episode 1. So anyway, they texted me and told me that they were considering moving again and asked if I would show my house. And one turned into about 4 properties on a Friday night, which is great. Again, I'm married to a nurse. So anytime I'm home after 5, my wife gets concerned that the market's bad, right? So she wants me out showing as many houses as possible. So I'm running all over the place showing houses to another client. I meet up with these guys just after 5 o'clock and never even thought to look at my gas gauge. Never even thought. I had actually stopped at the 5-star on 44 out in Mount Washington 5 minutes before I met them to use the bathroom and never even looked at my gas gauge. So we go look at a house. We leave there, and the next 3 houses that we're looking at are in Bardstown. So we got about halfway between Bardstown and Mount Washington, and I went to pass a car, and I got nothing. And my clients were about 10 minutes behind me because they had stopped for the kids to use the restroom before we headed to Bardstown. So I was going to meet them out there, open the house up, get it ready to see. So as I pull over the side of the road, I've got to make the phone call. Hey, have you guys left 5-star yet? Because I ran out of gas. And so they had already left 5-star. So they had to go to the gas station in Cox's Creek, buy a gas can, which they get you. They get you on the gas can. You think gas is expensive? Buy a gas can at a gas station. Then you know what highway robbery is, right? Then they turn and drive back and give me the gas can so I can put gas in my car.
Oh my God.
So that's pretty rough. The most embarrassing thing that's happened to me with a client.
You want to go?
I don't really have anything.
I got a bad one. I'm almost ashamed to even tell the story. I don't think I've ever told anybody before.
I'm kind of intrigued
now.
Okay. Actually.
Okay.
Are you taking the names out to protect the innocent, or
do we need to get the
there's
censors ready?
The only name involved is my own, which is bad.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
Well, okay.
I'm sure Mom and Dad are going to be proud when they hear.
Yeah. My dad's going to be like, what in the hell is wrong with you? Anyway, so we all know when you hang a Supra on the door,
Supra is the lockbox that we use. If you've ever worked with an agent, and apparently Zach has something with lockboxes. I don't know what it is, but
lockboxes and doors. I can't. I'm in the wrong business, I guess. I don't know.
It's the blue. It's the blue lockbox that hangs.
It's like
on,
that exact same color.
Yeah. So it hangs on the door, and only realtors, home inspectors, and appraisers have access to them. So
right.
Go ahead.
So hang the Supra on the door. Got to Bluetooth it to make it come open. Right. The house I was showing, luckily my clients had not shown up yet. I was early and they had texted me saying they were running like 5 or 10 minutes late. So anyway, there was a gap about an inch between the concrete porch and the house, where it had like worked itself away. You know where this is going already.
I
Probably.
think I know.
So me, being Zach, I am trying to dump the key out of the Supra
Directly
into
over
my
the
hand.
1-inch crack.
Not directly. No, not directly. It comes out awkwardly. I did not know there was like multiple things attached to this key, and it just like catches itself and falls to the ground. Right. I try to catch it and I kick it into the crack.
Amazing.
I couldn't do it again if I tried. It was like $1 million shot if it was
Amazing.
not a crack next to the house.
I think you called me over that one.
Did I call?
You,
I think I
you
did.
might have called me on that one. Go ahead.
Okay.
Finish your story.
So, can't get in the house, and I'm sure as hell not getting this key from this porch crack. So, luckily, I went to my car, and for whatever reason, there was a wire hanger in my car.
I question your extracurricular activities if you have wire hangers just in your
There was a wire hanger. I can't remember why.
You have duct tape.
No, I didn't
Small
have
duffel
duct tape.
bag.
But luckily, I had this wire hanger in my car.
You are like a felony just moving
And
down the road.
I was able to use that wire hanger to fish my key. I don't know what I would have done if it wouldn't have been for that hanger.
So
I would've
everybody
been-
listening has
Oh,
just
God.
realized how low the bar is to become a realtor.
Yeah.
They
Hey,
will give a
If
license
anything,
to
I
just
think that
about
says a lot
anybody.
about my problem-solving skills that I retrieved the key.
I like how you made it a positive. That's very good. I do think you called me on that one. There was another one you called me on where the agent lost a key to your listing in the backyard. Those are some good stories.
Oh yeah, that one made me angry. But
That was a good one, and he basically made it your problem. He had places to go, people to see, and he just left you with the issue to find a new key for the house that you had listed. So, I've got another one. It's more embarrassing, not to a client, but to another agent. And so I have a good friend of mine that I sold a house to about 2 years ago, and her and I had a bunch of houses set up on a Friday afternoon. She has a pretty flexible job, and she can look at properties during the afternoon. So I set up these 4 or 5 houses, and 3 of the 4 were in Norton's Commons. Great neighborhood, right? Great. I guess kind of the layout of the neighborhood is really cool, where you're walking distance to all these great things in the neighborhood. One issue you have with the properties is from the front, a lot of them look alike. And so I set these properties up back to back, and we get to the second property. We go through the property. It's not a good one for her, so we go to the second or to the third house, and we look at that one and we move on down the road. Unbeknownst to me, I went into a house that I didn't even have an appointment set up on.
Great.
yep.
The one next door was for sale as well. I had an appointment
Gotta love
on
it.
that one. The one that I showed was vacant, and I had no appointment. So always a habit. You knock
least it
before
was
you come
vacant.
in. Thank
You
God.
know,
But
true.
I always knock. I do knock and announce before I go in, right? But the funny thing is I would have been none the wiser. Like, I would have had no clue that I showed the wrong house.
Yep.
I got about 5 minutes down the road, and my phone rang. I answered it, and it wasn't a car warranty. It was actually the agent for the house that I was supposed to show, and said, "Hey, Craig, just curious if you were finished with your showing. My lady works from home, and she's sitting in her car, and she said no one's been to the house." I said, "Oh, yeah, we showed it. It just wasn't the one for my client, and but thank your seller for her hospitality. We really appreciate it."
Mm-hmm.
Good God.
She said, "Craig, you went to the wrong house." I said, "How do you know?" She said, "The one next door is for sale and vacant." I go, "Oh God, you're right. I went to the wrong house."
Oh my.
So yeah, that was another embarrassing one. So, we're not
Happens.
perfect. We're not perfect. At least we have stories, right? We have the stories.
Got a lot of stories. Got a lot of stories.
Well, with that being said, I want to kind of move on to another real estate topic, and want to talk about investing and rental properties and some of those things, but want to get a little bit more specific. But I know as we sit here, I've owned rental property in the past and plan to in the future. Jay owns rental properties now. I think we talked last podcast, his dad owned a lot of rental property in the past. And there's no question that the path to, financial stability is in real estate. I think, Jay, you even talked about it the other day about how many wealthy people real estate makes up a bulk of their portfolio.
Yeah. If you look into people that are wealthy or have some money, they have real estate in their portfolio, in their background somehow, right? Do they flip homes? Do they have rental properties? Do they have commercial properties? Whatever it may be, it's there. It's there's other ways of making money, but there's a good, easy way. No, I wouldn't say easy. A good way to build wealth is to own some property, and you start out with one, right? And then maybe you move into single family is your thing, right? So
right. Yeah. And I think there's strategies to each, and I think, if there's a get quick or get rich quick deal on every YouTube channel and everything about how to buy and sell and flip and real estate, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever philosophy you subscribe to, we're not saying it's right or wrong, right? And Jay is a member of the organization.
Yeah, it's CREA, Kentucky Real Estate Investors Association.
And there's some
good time.
and that's open to the public, right, Jay? You don't have to be a licensed professional.
That's correct. Yeah, you can join a membership. It's go to CREA.com, look them up. It's great networking event. There's all kinds of different people there. But yeah, it's really good for people that are interested in, even if you don't know anything about investing, join up.
And I think that's interesting story he told about the last meeting is he actually met a father-daughter that are completely unaffiliated with real estate, but his daughter had a goal of becoming a landlord or a flipper or something like that when she came to the meeting.
Yeah. Real quick on her, she rough 19, 20 years old. I just happened to sit down next to her dad, and we just kind of started talking, and he said, I'm not really here for myself, I'm here for my daughter. And she was sitting behind us, and he said she wants to be a real estate investor. She wants to own properties, and she knows nothing about it. They drive in from, I think, Brandenburg every meeting, and she said, I'm just here to learn. So
it's a great resource. It is, as far as price-wise, it's super reasonable to join. They have events. In fact, they had an event today that kind of leads me to the topic that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But there are resources out there, and I encourage anyone listening, if any of this piques your interest, reach out to Jay, reach out to Zach, reach out to myself, and we can point you in the right direction. Jay owns rental properties now. He has single-family units that he rents, lots of long-term tenants. He's got a lot of experience with it. It's a great way to build financial stability and wealth, no question about it. Now, people talk about mailbox money and passive income, and yeah, it's passive to some extent, but you still got to fix leaky faucets. You still got to deal with tenants that don't pay. You still have the hassle factor that goes into being a landlord. But if you're willing to tolerate that, and you can farm a lot of this out, there are local property management organizations that will manage properties for you, et cetera, et cetera. But if you are at all interested in investment properties, I would highly recommend that you reach out to one of us or to the agent that you're working with, and that you get involved with organizations like CREA. There's a ton of experience in that room, and even though they're not up there talking at the podium, just while you're getting dinner or grabbing your second old fashioned, Jay,
right.
You can have a discussion about real estate, and I think it's crucial to use that experience. What I kind of want to dig into, and I think there was a lunch and learn. CREA had a lunch and learn today on short-term rentals, Airbnbs, Verbos. Yeah. Sweeping the nation. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And I don't know about you guys, and I travel a lot with volleyball, with the kids, travel volleyball, etc. Yeah. Or if we're just going on vacation, we don't go to a hotel unless we absolutely have to, right? Unless it's dictated by whatever tournament we're playing in. if we can go Airbnb Verbo, we're going that direction because it's just like it's a house, right? And so you have all the benefits of being in a house. The people that own those are people just like you and me.
Right.
Yeah. But there's some caveats with that. And it can be a great income producer. But you have to know that there's some regulations in and around Airbnbs. And so as I've dug into this and some angles of investing that I'm kind of looking at and going to do in the future, I started to dig into what we call Verbo Airbnb. Other people call short-term rentals. So for argument's sake, or what we'll refer to it going forward, are short-term rentals. And so defined by, let's say, the city of Louisville, a short-term rental is any property that is leased for less than 30 consecutive days. So that would fit Airbnb, right? Because a lot of times you're just there for 3, 4, 7, 10 days, whatever. Now, talking about some of the money that you can make doing this, I know someone that rents their walkout basement and makes about $1,000 a month on Airbnb doing it, right? So there's a lot of money to be made doing this, right? Because if you're traveling for work, you got a guy's trip and you're going on the bourbon tour or whatever, Airbnbs are perfect for those types of situations. So have you ever stayed at an Airbnb, Jay?
I have stayed in Airbnbs, and I think that's exactly right. That's what's happening. That's what people are doing. I think these hotel chains are going to find themselves struggling. Some of the hotel chains,
right.
And I think they'll also try to use their power to try to slow these Airbnbs down. Right?
Well, that's interesting that you say that, and so that kind of leads into what I want to talk about a little bit tonight, because every property that you run across can't be an Airbnb. And so what happened, and similar to with what happened with Uber and Lyft, taxi cab companies threw a fit, right? Because those people have to get special licenses. They have to pay certain taxes in order to operate as a taxi cab company, right? So when Uber and Lyft came along, they had to pay none of that. And so cab companies are like, hey, wait a minute. They're providing the same service that we provide. However, they don't have to jump through any of the hoops.
Right.
And so what Jay alluded to is exactly what happened is, so when you have a hotel, you have to pay what's called a bed tax, right? And so every time a room is occupied or rented, there's a portion. And if you look on the back of your hotel room, it breaks down what your taxes are. And so you have to pay a bed tax. You have to pay lots of other things. As a hotel, you know, there are a lot of things that you have to pay. But when Airbnb Verbo first started, it was the Wild West. You could turn anything into an Airbnb, right?
Right.
And just like supply and demand in the housing market, demand for hotel rooms went way down, and it really wasn't, in their eyes, a fair playing field, right? And so they lobbied pretty hard for states and cities to put in place ordinances and regulations for certain properties to operate as Airbnbs. So like locations like Denver, it's almost impossible now to have an Airbnb, to start a new Airbnb in Denver because people push back so hard. Not only people in the hotel industry, but people in the neighborhoods that Airbnbs were being set up, they pushed back as well, because the last thing they wanted were a bunch of dudes on a golf trip getting drunk and making a bunch of noise. So in 2015, Louisville passed some ordinances in and around short-term rentals. So those are properties that are leased less than 30 consecutive days. So anything over and above 30 is okay. Right. And those are considered long-term leases.
Gotcha.
So, have you guys ever considered investing in Airbnb? I've thought about it. That's one of the reasons I started looking into it.
I think, Zach, go ahead.
Oh, no, you got it, man.
I think with anything, any type of investing, like the numbers have to work for you, right? and what that number is for me is going to be different than Zach and Craig potentially, right? Or anybody's listening is thinking about doing it. What does that number look like for you? What are you trying to make off this property, right?
Right.
You're trying to cash flow something, right? Are you trying to cash flow enough to pay all your bills? Are you trying to cash flow enough to just keep the property running itself and then just sit on that property for a while
and build equity.
Sell it down the road, leave it to your family? We'll talk about another podcast, a 1031 exchange, trade that property in on another one, right?
I'm going to let you lead that one.
Save some of that tax implications, right? So what's that look like for you? And it's going to be different for everybody.
Right. And so I think the allure of Airbnb, first of all, I think they're cool as hell, right? Because I've never stayed at one that wasn't decorated like perfectly.
And they got to have like professional people decorating them, right?
Well, and man, if you do some research, there's some ways to do it. And that's the interesting part about this whole segment of investment property, in my opinion.
I mean, I've only stayed in one Airbnb. If you can believe
that surprises me. Your generation, I know.
I don't have a TikTok, and I've only stayed in one Airbnb. I'm failing as a millennial,
just an old
man.
soul. He's
I
an
know.
old soul.
And you're in a southern rock band.
Yeah, I know.
So
a genre that
go figure.
popped in the 70s.
Go figure. So I've thought about it, and I still may, right? But the important thing is to be informed and to educate, right? And so I have clients on literally almost daily basis, at least a couple times a week. Clients reach out to me and ask about short-term rentals, right? And so I've had to dig into it a little bit. And so what I found is that in 2015, the rules kind of changed a little bit, right? And a lot of the people prior were grandfathered in. And depending on where you live, there are different rules in Old Louisville, right? So in Old Louisville, it's a little bit easier to get an Airbnb. And there's some reasons why, and it makes perfect sense. But let's just say we have a property in Germantown, for example. Great area, lots of restaurants, lots of bars. On paper, it makes a great Airbnb. Here's the issue. So in order to use a property as a short-term rental that is not your primary residence, you have to file for what's called a conditional use permit. All right. So you have to file paperwork with the city. You have to pay a fee to the city. And then
You have to pay a fee to the city?
A fee to the city. I know that's hard to believe.
It is hard to believe.
Yeah. And so, and that process takes anywhere between 4 and 6 months for approval. Oof. And oftentimes you have to present your plan in front of the neighbors in the area.
Yeah.
So pretty big hurdle to step over.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you can't have another short-term rental within 600 feet of an existing registered short-term rental. So a lot of times in the past, when realtors didn't do their homework, they would go in a property with Zach and they go, "Oh, Zach, this would make a great Airbnb. I think you should do it."
Yep, sure would.
Zach buys the property, runs it as an Airbnb for like 6 months, and then the cranky neighbor down the street calls the city and you get fined. And then you keep doing it and you get fined again. So there are fines associated with it. But the important thing is that you have to pay the bed tax. So you have to reconcile your taxes annually, and you're responsible for a bed tax. So every time the property's rented, you owe a bed tax. And then you also pay an occupational tax, which is 1099 employees. We all pay an occupational tax anyway. But the interesting thing is that if it's not your primary residence, you have to get the conditional use permit. You have to pay the fees in order to get that. And you can't have another registered short-term rental within 600 feet of your property. Otherwise, you can't do it. So there are ways around it, and not ways around it. There are other avenues to rent the property on a shorter term, just longer than 30 days or longer. And we can get into that a little bit. So does any of that surprise you guys? I mean, is that?
Well, I think a lot of times people that have never bought rental properties, or if they're thinking about Airbnb or whatever, they look at it and they're like, man, I've stayed in Airbnb, or they look on the internet and or they hear the next video saying, I make $20,000 a month on my Airbnbs. Look at me. Look how easy it is. It's not that easy.
No, it's not.
It's not. Owning any type of rental property, short term, long term, whatever, is not easy.
It's work. I mean, there's work that goes into it, whether it's physical or
Yeah.
mental or
Yep.
any of that stuff, right? There's stuff that goes into it. So
Yeah, I think that this Airbnb thing, I think eventually will get to a point to where it's got to be regulated a little bit more, because there's so many people out there, so many investor groups that have money, and they have people on staff that are able to navigate through all the laws and everything and say, hey, we can buy this house right now because we're 601 feet away
Right.
from the other one.
there are agents
So-
in the city that they have their own Airbnbs and they specialize in helping clients set up Airbnbs, right? In which, hey, I mean, I think it's a great niche kind of deal, and as I
Sure.
learn more about this, it's something that I'm doing more of with my clients is taking them to look at these properties. The thing is, and we'll have Zach and all his technical amazing stuff that he does. We'll have him post a link. There's a website, and it's a .gov website through Louisville Metro, and you can actually read all the rules and regs. I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell what I talked about. But there's also an interactive map where you can go on and you can plug in your address, and you can see if your property or the property that you or your client are interested in is available for a short-term rental. So I think that's a huge asset. Yeah.
It is very, yeah.
I mean, knowledge, the key to this thing is knowing this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And there have been cases in the past, talking to the other agents, that I've heard that people with all intentions were going to open an Airbnb, and then they find out that they're in violation.
Yeah, please.
Man.
If you're listening or watching, whatever, and that's your intention, let your agent know that.
Absolutely,
Because
100%.
don't get yourself in a bind.
100%.
If that agent knows, he can do some work. If he does it right, he'll do some work for you and get you the right answer.
So the interesting thing that I thought was so these regulations apply if it's not your primary residence, right? So if it's zoned residential, not your primary residence, these are some of the hoops that you're going to have to jump through. Now, if it is your primary residence, all you have to do is register the property, pay your occupational tax, you pay your fee to register, and pay your occupational tax. And you are able to Airbnb your personal residence without a conditional use permit. So what that is, basically, say you're going to be gone for a while, say you want to rent it for Derby, right? I mean, Jay, you and I were just talking about properties that would bring a pretty penny for Derby, right? So, I mean, I've seen that they're pulling $1,600 a night, for Derby. So that, a solid week of that pays your house payment for the entire year, right?
Yeah.
So as your primary residence, it's not the case that you have to file for the occupational use permit. So there is kind of a way around it if it is your primary residence.
Yeah.
The other interesting one, and the one that I'd like to talk about maybe on a future podcast, and we're going to work to get someone that specializes in Airbnb on. I've got some experience. Jay's got single family residence rental experience under his belt, and then get some people in to talk about 1031 exchanges, talk about multifamily. I mean, we've got a guest list that we're compiling that I think will be super interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So the one that I'd like to talk about down the road is furnished rentals 30 days and longer, and how that fits in to a really growing segment of travel medical associates, like travel nurses,
Yeah.
respiratory, x-ray techs. And so if you can't do an Airbnb, you can do the next best thing. And most of those contracts are 90 days long. So you're not violating any city ordinance, because those are termed or considered long-term rentals versus a short-term rental. So we can do, and we will, and this is an avenue that I've really started to invest some time and effort in for myself personally, for my investments, and then for some of my clients as well. In fact, I've got a meeting set up next week with a client that is just a regular buy a house, rent it long-term. But the thing with these midterm, we'll call them midterm rentals, is that you can oftentimes charge a premium, because if they were to stay at a hotel, you're $100 and something a night. You're going to be well under a 30-day stay at a hotel with all the creature comforts of a home. And so I encourage you, and it might even be something that we tackle on the next podcast, but I encourage you to hang out for that one, because I think that's a big niche opportunity, because I don't think that job segment is going to shrink in the near future. Jay, you're married to a respiratory therapist, so you can speak to that as well.
Yeah, so definitely spot on about the contract people, the contract employers, right, or employees, I guess. Travel around, get a contract at another state or something, and work that contract for 8, 12, 16 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So
15 and a half is the normal.
Yeah, would I rather stay in a hotel for that long, or a nice home, right? And some of these Airbnbs have pools and all this stuff that comes along with it, right? And oftentimes these traveling professionals will just team up with another one, right?
And they split
stay
the
in the
cost.
same. They get a 2 or 3 bedroom home and stay in there. And these are the type of people that typically are going to take good care of your home, right? They're going to be there for 90 days or something.
They usually work 12-hour shifts.
Yeah, so they get out of work and they either get Grubhub or whatever delivers to your house, or they hit something up on the way. They're not really spending a lot of time in your place. So typically they're going to take really good care of that home.
Right. I think it's really intriguing. I think it probably warrants a little bit more detail on another episode, and I think we'll work to do that. But I think it's a great niche market maybe for investors. So Zach will get the link posted to the short-term rental information on the Louisville government website, the Metro government website.
Absolutely.
And anyone can access that. You can find out if a property is available for short-term rental or eligible for short-term rental. And remember, there's still some hoops that you have to jump through, and that there's some fees associated with that whole thing. So with that being said, let's move on. And I have gotten into YouTube and TikTok and all this stuff. A guy almost 50 years old, man. I don't watch network TV anymore. I am addicted to YouTube, right? And in particular,
They got you, huh?
Yeah, they hook, line, and sinker, man. I fought it, right? But I'm addicted to the YouTube Shorts or the Facebook Reels or the TikToks.
Oh man, you scroll
Because your attention
forever.
span is super short.
Yeah, I've got the attention span of a gnat. I've got adult onset ADHD. Right?
We didn't say
it. If back when you were in grade school, when you were my age, you were just hyper, right?
Yeah.
But here we are, and so I've got a confession to make. So I've got a guilty pleasure on these social media sites, and I'm going to keep this G-rated because it's a family show. So my guilty pleasure is chiropractor videos. I can watch literally hours
Of people getting adjusted.
of people getting their necks and backs cracked. Like it is insane. And literally, I tell myself every video, this is the last one. And these damn videos are so short. You're like, what's another one going to hurt?
Yep.
And then you're an hour into it.
So
Where'd that go?
I've made my horrible social media guilty pleasure public. What is your guilty pleasure on social media, Zach?
Oh God. Well, I don't have a TikTok, as I said earlier.
Don't get it.
I'm not, man. I've stayed off of it.
Dude, I fought it and fought it and fought it. And
I know.
I'm doing it.
Well, I see a bunch of people saying like, businesses need to be investing in TikTok now. The platform's not going anywhere. And I'm like, well, God bless. I guess I maybe need to get a TikTok, but I'm holding out.
I bet you he's got a TikTok by next episode. Anyway.
Oh boy, I don't know about it. We'll see. But anyway, no, I get roped into like, it's gonna sound stupid, but like these like art videos, or they're
That's a close number 2 for me.
like these people that just like paint,
Yes.
but they super speed up the painting, and it's just them like just.
Or how about the ones that paint something upside down and flip it around?
Oh, dude.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
It's all amazing. I got no talent. I've got no talent. The only talent I have is I can talk into this microphone, right? I can talk. That's it. I have nothing. But those people amaze me. Like guys that play guitar like you or drums or anything. Like, I don't have one of those talents. Jay, do you have one of those talents? You strum a little bit, don't you?
No talents.
Don't you
at all.
strum a little
No.
bit? I thought you did.
I don't know anything about music.
You gotta get you playing.
Jay knows something about Mustangs.
Highly
though.
unlikely.
That's what he knows about.
Oh, dude, no, I got you.
Okay.
All right.
It's easy.
You know, that might be a segment. Teach Jay to play.
Why does teach Jay to play?
Well,
It could be teach Craig to play.
I got the biggest microphone in front of me, so it's.
All right, maybe we'll try it out.
And I'm just
Try it
saying. So, Jay, what is your?
So TikTok is very addicting. I got TikTok originally because my kids were on TikTok. And
Good reason.
Sometimes it's not maybe the best thing for a kid to be on, but once I kind of followed them a little bit. But what else happens, right? There's other videos out there, and you go down that rabbit hole of what are you looking at? And my attention span is very short as well. So I look at a video, and within 2 seconds, I know if I'm going to watch the whole video. Just scroll right. Nope, don't like this. Don't like the
So it's
intro
funny.
music, nothing.
Jay was saying one day, he said, if it says wait till the end, it's automatic. I move on
Oh
to the
yeah,
next video.
absolutely. If it says that, no way. There's no way I'm waiting to the end. So yeah, I don't really have a specific, but I tell you, I do like the TikToks with like animals and dogs doing dumb stuff, or like crashing through windows or screen doors or things like that.
Too.
Right.
So yeah, my family pretty much communicates. We don't really say anything to each other. We just send each other TikToks
and text.
And we all just kind of pick up on.
So let me ask you this.
What we're getting at.
You live in a 2-story house. I live in a story and a half. So my kids' bedrooms are on the second floor. My office is in the basement, right? So a lot of times I'm working from the basement. Mm-hmm. And who is guilty of sending a text to someone maybe in the next room or another floor to, hey, could you get me this or could you do this?
Oh my God!
All the time?
All the time.
Really?
All the time.
I thought I was the only one.
All the time.
Is that the height of laziness, or is it better than screaming, hey, turn off the whatever?
I'm just trying to get my money's worth out of my cell phone service. So I feel like I'll do more.
Now that you're paying for it on your own?
Especially if they're in the basement and you're on if it's the next room, maybe not, but a different floor and you got to change levels. Yeah.
Okay. It happens when you get old like us, Jay, or like us, Zach, and you don't want to walk up and down stairs or do anything like that. It's you consciously think these things, right? You're like, oh shit, that's upstairs. So anyway, so we all made our admissions on this podcast. Thank God we have like 5 listeners, and they're all related to us, and they probably already know. So it's not a big
only
deal.
have 3 after this one.
Yeah, after
no
this, they
kidding.
might disown us, and so we'll see. But all in all, I think it's been a good episode.
Yeah.
One of our goals, like I said, is we're just going to speak in common language, unfiltered. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna sugarcoat anything. It's just kind of it is what it is. But we want everybody to understand, and look forward to partnering with people and helping them understand.
Right.
With that said, one of the things that we like to do is we like to promote local businesses. We like to promote events that are going on. First, I want to promote Zach's band because, first of all, you're rocking the T-shirt, and the T-shirt's fantastic. So,
Brandon, you can pick
Thanks,
this
guys.
merchandise up too.
Where do
It's
they get the
very
merch?
inexpensive.
God. Well, we have an online store that's about ready to go.
Okay.
But pennyroyalky.com is our domain that
And we're going to put that link. We'll put that link in the description as well.
Or just come to a show if we ever play one again. Who knows?
We'll promote the heck out of that one. But
Yeah.
if you listen to the intro and as you listen to us go out of this podcast, that music is a Pennyroyal original, right?
Yep.
Yet to be released. So we're kind of special. We
Get a
get
little snippet.
yeah,
we
we
got about
get
10
it.
seconds of it.
That's fantastic. We had to pay royalties or because I'm broke.
Well, it asked me. It made me sign a thing that says we have the rights to the music. So
Seeing
I
you're
hope
playing
I have the rights to the
guitar
music.
in the
Jesus.
music,
Yeah.
I'd say. So we wanted to promote Zach's band. They got a bunch of stuff on YouTube. You're also on Spotify. You're on
Yeah, we're on everything.
Southern Rock.
Haven't made any pushes yet, but we're there. Lying in wait.
They've got a bunch of great. I've seen them live, amazing. Do some great covers, but they've got some original stuff that is really really good. And so if you can check it out, if you're into Southern rock, lead singer has a very unique voice. Does a great cover of AC/DC.
Yes, yes, he does.
And so it's a really good band. And Blackstone Cherry is in the works of producing your album.
Yep.
And like we said on the last podcast, check out Blackstone Cherry. Their cover of Fast Car is probably one of my favorite songs ever. Like, I liked the song before when Tracy Chapman did it, but their cover is insane.
It's pretty good.
It's awesome. So
it's pretty good.
Zach, you all just released a video not too long ago, right?
The
Penny
live
video?
stuff. Yeah.
In the old barn or
yeah,
whatever
we were sick of, to make a long story short, this album we started making it during COVID, and it's been expensive, and then you don't want to like put it out and like waste the investment. You want to like make sure it all happens the correct way, so it's taken forever to get put out, and we were sick of waiting. So we were just like, let's just go to the barn and record stuff that's not on the record.
And who put all that together for you?
So the drummer Cliffy mixed the audio and did all that fun stuff with it. I don't know how to do any of that. We had a guy come in, his name's Jacob, and he worked the cameras and shot everything, and then I just ripped it all off the cards and I edited the videos and put it all together.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Well, and again, back to kind of one of the core reasons we put this together is to help to promote local businesses, local people trying to get by, to make it happen, right? Live the dream. Stay tuned. Next episode, I do have a story about Zach's mom.
Oh,
so
God.
that will definitely come out next episode, and we may even touch back on the murder house story again. So
yeah, we need to.
That one. We're running out of time this time, but stay tuned. Zach's mom and the murder house story. Yeah. So I mean, who wouldn't want to tune in for that? I mean,
God.
For sure. Zach's dad's going to be waiting outside. Anyway. So with that being said, we wanted to kind of talk about some of the things going on, easy for me to say, in the local area. We want to talk about, festivals, concerts, parades, whatever's going on. So Jay's kind of taken it upon himself to put some of that stuff together.
Yeah, so we're based in Jeffersontown. Our office is in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, for the ones that don't know that. Jeffersontown, Kentucky is just outside of Louisville, about maybe 15, 20 minutes east side of Louisville. So there are lots of small cities that have events. The Jeffersontown has the Gaslight Festival. Local people listening have definitely heard of the Gaslight Festival.
Absolutely.
It comes. It's in September. It's in September every year. It starts out it's usually about a week long. The big events are usually that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Start out like a typical fall festival craft show type thing.
Right.
But it's really escalated into a week long event for the city.
Well, it ends with a car show on Sunday.
Yeah,
right?
It does. So the Jeffersontown Chamber puts this on. You can go to their website, jtownchamber.com, get some information if you've never been to it. It is a pretty good event that they put on. Middletown, other areas do that. I'm just familiar with Jeffersontown living here, but they have a motorcycle poker run. They have a golf scramble. They have a 5K that runs through the city.
And I think the 5K usually they end and they hang out at third turn. So if you're not a runner, you can go grab a seat at third turn, and then everybody comes back or Karam's or the beach, right? Those are all three watering holes.
We'll be
rec
doing
bar.
segments on all of them, I would say.
Absolutely.
I've only been to the beach once.
That's great.
They have a business appreciation day. That's one thing Jeffersontown does really well. Is they really are appreciative of their employees and the people that help make the city run, and so they have a business appreciation day. So that mayor and the staff there does an excellent job with that. And then you get into the actual festival itself, which runs usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's the center of town. There's booths set up. There's all kinds of events going on. There's bands at play. There's food courts, all kinds of events, stuff for kids to do, stuff for adults to do. There's a parade that runs down Tills Road.
It's on
a
Thursday.
big parade, yeah. A couple hours to get through that parade if you're watching it, but people set up hours ahead of time to catch that parade.
And so anybody that's listening and wants to bring their kids to the parade, we happen to be at the perfect spot on the parade route. We are right on Taylorsville Road, literally right in the main path of the parade. So anybody that wants to grab a seat at Mayor Realtors, reach out to Jay or Zach or myself, and we can coordinate where we can get you guys pretty close.
It's a fun time.
It is. It's a great time. We're trying to talk Zach into, if he's not bringing the whole band, into at least playing a little bit himself at our Gaslight party.
And if you come by and you heard us on this podcast, we might have a little extra something for you.
So if you come by and you mention you heard about it on the podcast, there is most definitely a beverage in your future. And then there's probably going to be some food in your future as well. So we have a blast. It's a really good event. J-Town is an awesome community, right? We are fortunate enough we're in downtown J-Town. So we're not far from the Firehouse. We're not far from Karam's, from El Nopal. We're not far from Rec Bar, which is Zach's favorite place to grab a PBR after we record a podcast. Tonight, I think we're going to hit Bear Nose because they just opened the Bear Nose Tap House.
They did, yeah.
They've got
Pizza
a new
sounds good,
concept, and Rob Mooney is a buddy of mine, and I'll have to reach out to Rob, and maybe Rob can come on and talk a little bit about what they're doing down there at Bear Nose.
Are they the best pizza in Louisville?
Man, I'm telling you what, it is. You
close.
find one better
close.
than a Mama Bear Nose special and a draft beer.
Yeah.
If you can find one that can beat that. Now, my family is from the Shively area. My mom's family is from the Shively area. So we used to eat at Angelo's a lot right there on 7th Street next to the Foxy Lady. So, yeah. So when I was a kid, Dwight would go park the car in the back close to the Foxy Lady, and I would always ask what the neon sign that said Foxy Lady was for. And then my mom would get mad at my dad, and he would proceed to go in and drink a couple pitchers of beer. At Angelo's, you sit at card tables, right, folding tables and chairs, but the pizzas and the steak sandwiches are second to none. But with that being said, Bear Nose, Mama Bear Nose special, without question, is the best pizza. We might have started something here. Like, this might be a
We'll probably eat
segment.
pizza tonight, too.
We're probably going to eat some pizza. Yeah. Jay gained a little bit of weight during vacation.
We're not talking about that.
So he's going to pack on some more, and then, we'll take it off.
You ever had Miguel's? It's not in Louisville, but have you ever had Miguel's in the gorge?
I've not.
No.
Oh my God!
Now,
you need to go.
If
eat
we're
Miguel's.
talking pizza, right? If we're talking local pizza, Bear Nose I think by a long stretch. Now, Hometown is fantastic too, and I'm spoiled because there's one right across the street from my house, and I happen to sell the owner's house, so I have to say that as well.
There's a lot of good pizza places in Louisville, though.
There is though.
But if you haven't had Chicago pizza, right, do your research there, because that pizza is it's a casserole. It's not a pizza, it's a casserole, and it's insane.
There's two others I can think of that are really good. It's Bonnie and Clyde's.
Bonnie and Clyde's.
The South End.
But
Never had
you
that.
have to be
Never had
from
that.
the South End to really know about
Yeah.
Bonnie and Clyde's, and it is amazing.
Yeah, and then there's another pizza place. If you go to the Millwood Arts Center, it's right down there. There's also another location. It's
Danny
called
Mac's.
Danny Mac's.
So I went to high school with
Excellent.
Danny Mac.
Yeah.
So Danny and I graduated high school together. He used to be out of the VFW post.
Yep.
And Danny, great guy in high school. And maybe I'll have Danny on. So Danny, I'm going to give you a shout out on this podcast. If you have not tried Danny Mac's Pizza, it's amazing. If you go to Tim Tams, which is right across from Jay's favorite high school in the city of Louisville, St. Xavier High School, Jay does own a St. Xavier shirt. So
right.
Jay being a
Can
Trinity
you edit
grad,
that part out? I need you to edit that part out.
Jay being a Trinity grad owns green and gold, right? But if you go to Tim Tams, from what I understand, Danny Mac's supplies the pizzas for Tim Tams.
That is correct.
So it is awesome. So if you can't get to Danny Mac's, go to Tim Tams and you can have the same. But the pizza's amazing. And Danny is a great dude. He does a great thing where, and I don't know if it's seasonal or during a certain time, but he sets a full table set for a veteran that's passed. So
That's cool. That's really cool.
He has that set up, and Danny's just a good dude, and it's a great location.
Yeah.
It's a little out of the way for. I live in J-Town, so it's a little out of the way for me. But if we're ever down that way, we usually try to stop by and check it out. So good stuff. Well, guys, I think we've done enough damage.
Sounds good to me.
For this episode, we've got a lot of great things that we have planned and coming up. We've got a lot of great guests that we plan to bring on, and to really just talk to you very simply, give you a resource to reach out to if you ever need help in estate planning. And for God's sakes, if you need a hardware store, we've got a great hardware store here in J-Town that we're going to bring on and have him hopefully talk about some stuff. So if you want to be on the podcast, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on.
Reach out. Yes.
We'd love to have you on. The biggest thing that you could do for us is like and subscribe to this podcast.
Please do it. It'll only get better with time.
It's a work in progress, and we get better every week or every time that we record one of these things. But we couldn't do it without you guys. And hopefully the content that we're bringing is helpful. It's entertaining. As entertaining as three average dudes sitting around a table talking about real estate can be.
Yeah.
Right. But at least it's entertaining. We're gonna have some fun stories. And we're just gonna shoot it to you straight. And so, with that being said, I can't thank you guys enough for putting this together, Zach, for the work you do on the technical side of it. So I look forward to the next one, and I can't thank everybody else enough for their support.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see you on the next one.
Sick. All right.
Awesome. Send us out, Zach.
All right.
Any statements or opinions made by the host of Real Estate Unfiltered are not necessarily the opinions of Mayor Realtors.